To go on to the next program, I'm sure after the hot topic of liquid biopsy, we are proceeding to the much awaited debate. And to go on to this, let me, I take the place of Dr. Kusum Joshi to introduce Dr. Anita Borges, but as she's not logged in, I would take the honor to do so. Dr. Anita Borges, as you all know, she's so well known, she needs no introduction, but I have to do my formal job of doing it. She's a well-known oncopathologist, consultant, and head of histopathology at SRIHER Hospital, director of the Center of Oncopathology supported by the Tata Trust at Mumbai. She is an alumnus of Topiwala National Medical College and Nair Hospital, Bombay, and went on to progress at the Royal Marsden Hospital, London, and Memorial Hospital, New York. She retired as a professor of pathology in charge of the surgical pathology at India's Cancer Institute, that is Tata Memorial Hospital in Mumbai. And she has spent more than 2 decades there. She's such a well-known teacher. Everyone remembers her lectures and her slide seminars, which are a great hit. Until recently, she was the vice president, that's the issue, of the International Academy of Pathology and the dean of the Indian College of Pathologists. So she is at present the chairman of the NABL, that is the Accreditation Committee for the Clinical Laboratories of NABL, and a member of the NABL board as well. Her interests are in head and neck pathology, mechanisms of metastasis, and lymph node pathology. So over to you, ma'am, to moderate this session, especially the debate, much awaited by all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Usha. That was a very generous introduction. And I think I am really very, very happy to be amongst all the fellows of the ICP after a very long time. I think that this debate, the topic of which is textbooks are obsolete before they are printed or published, is a very interesting one, because we cannot really see a world in which there are no textbooks, either when they are printed or they are online. Everybody is accustomed to having textbooks. But at the same time, we have to admit that we live in a world in which there is an information firestorm. So you think you know something yesterday, and the next day you find that there is so much more information on whatever it is that you thought you knew. So really the subject of this debate, or the proposition that we are debating over here, is what role do textbooks actually have to play in this world, which is where you can get information at the touch of a button. All you have to do is go to Google or any one of the expert sites and you'll get your knowledge. So do we really need textbooks? I think that really is the subject of this debate. And without much ado, because we are already running late, I'd like to introduce Professor Sandhya Sundaram, who is going to take up cudgels on behalf of the proposition, and that is textbooks are obsolete before they are published. Sandhya is currently professor and head of the Department of Pathology at Sri Ramachandra Medical College and Research Center. She's also the head of clinical services at the Medical Center. So you can see she is a teacher for both undergraduate and postgraduate students, and obviously has a deep insight into textbooks and the knowledge that textbooks promote. She's had 23 years of experience and has an interest in genitourinary breast and molecular pathology. She also has written textbooks or books. One is the Handbook of Pathology for Postgraduate Students, and the other one is a chapter for Pathology for the Surgeon. She has very interestingly written a foreword to the Indian South Asian editions, it's not Indian, South Asian edition of Rosai's textbook of surgical pathology. So Sandhya has an interest in this subject, and we will hear her views. The opponent in this debate is also somebody who has written textbooks, and I see that he is the author of 7 popular textbooks which have come out in multiple editions. That is Dr. Harsh Mohan, who is at present a senior consultant pathologist at Oncquest Laboratories at Panchkula. Everybody knows Harsh through his textbooks. I don't know there is any student today, postgraduate or undergraduate, who has not taken a peek into, if not studied in great depth, Harsh Mohan's textbook of pathology. He is literally the founder of the pathology department and the guiding light of the pathology department of the Government Medical College in Chandigarh, which started in 1994, and that was the time when the pathology department was established. And he guided that pathology department all the way until he retired, obviously as the head of the department in July 2015. He's also held charge as dean and medical superintendent, and he's a proud alumnus of Rohtak. That's the PGIMS Rohtak, where he did both his undergraduate and his postgraduate studies. So, of course, he's had lots of awards, and he has been recognized for various things. So, without much ado, can I ask Sandhya, please, do you want to share a screen, or are you only going to talk?
Ma'am,
I will be sharing my screen.
Before that, we thought, thank you for reminding me, Aditya, we thought that we would take a poll on this subject. There will be a poll put up, it'll be just a minute. I think Aditya is going to put up a poll that says how many people are for, how many people are against, and how many people are undecided. And we will not tell you the results of the poll until after the debate. And once the debate is done, then we will ask you to poll again. And I think that will tell us whether Sandhya has made her case so strongly that people have changed their minds, or Harsh has done the same and people have changed their minds. So if there are undecided people, are they going to change their mind? So the poll must be up somewhere, please, Aditya.
Okay.
Can you
I will
put it up?
raise the poll now. It will appear as a pop-up on your screen, and we'll give you 2 minutes to respond. So kindly respond soon. Thank you. It's up. The poll is up. Kindly start responding.
Yes, please. And in the meantime, I will just tell you what the way that we're going to conduct this debate. We had originally thought 20 minutes for Sandhya and 20 minutes for Harsh, and then 5 minutes for rebuttal each, and then 10 minutes for the audience to express their views or ask questions or whatever. But I think then, since we're running late, I don't want to cut down anybody's time, but perhaps we can we may not have the rebuttal. So is the poll done?
It's still running, ma'am. Many are responding. Still 22 more to respond, still 21.
Okay.
Kindly respond soon.
Aditya, I think you have to close the poll at some time because everybody may not respond.
Yes, ma'am. I'll close it at 2 minutes. I've given them 2 minutes.
2 minutes. All right.
40 seconds to. All right, we will be closing the poll now. Thank you.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Sandhya, you're on.
Yes, ma'am, I will be on here. Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
You can see my screen? Yes, okay. So, okay. Okay, so, yes, first of all, thank you so much, moderator madam, Dr. Borges madam, for that wonderful, wonderful introduction. And I pay my respects to all the ICP fellows here who are here today and in such a wonderful meeting. And thank you to Dr. Usha, the ever so beautiful Dr. Usha, for conducting this, and Dr. Aditya. So the topic for today is printed books are becoming obsolete, and I'm speaking for the motion that printed books are indeed becoming obsolete. So a disclaimer before I start my talk, and this is purely a non-academic discussion and with a pure intent only to with humor, with no intention to downplay anything. I have shown some cartoons and clips from the net to reiterate the fun points. And there is no conflict of interest at all. I'm not the owner of Google, or I'm not the CEO of Twitter or any of the products. I'm just here to present my views, which I passionately believe in. And my worthy and most respected opponent, Dr. Harsh Mohan, continues to be my mentor and friend, and I agree with him in all other statements except this debate. Okay, so my respects to our most esteemed my respects to our most esteemed moderator, Dr. Anita Borges, madam, and this is a photo taken in 2019 at the Chandigarh conference, pre-corona. And we all know she's an offline queen of pathology, and now she's an online one too. Look at the way madam has embraced technology. I mean, you see her in all these sessions now, and nation wanted to see her, and thanks to technology, nation gets to see her, gets to hear her. Not only the nation, even the international ones. So she has embraced technology like anything, and all of us in this short time. And this is a meeting which happened this last week, and this was on prostate cancer. And at the end of meeting, madam gives a very nice, comment at the end of it. And it's interesting to note that there is one person here from West Africa, and Neothin, somebody I don't even know which country, but these are the meetings that are happening regularly between 6 to 9. And don't you think that was a time students used to read their textbooks? And what are they doing in the digital world? I mean, they are all there, 700, 800 of them, listening to the experts, listening to madam and her comments. So I think online digital learning has certainly come of age. So this is indeed a very, very important topic in teaching learning, as madam had said, and this becomes a most vital discussion, and printed books are indeed becoming obsolete. Now here is why. Let me take you through evolution. Now, we all remember that long, long ago, pigeons used to take love letters, and there was this famous movie, Maine Pyar Kiya, where there was this song called Kabutar Jaja. It takes 2 days, the heroine's crying, the hero is crying, and finally they reach, and then all that happens. But now look at this technology. Within minutes, this guy has sent something at 12:20, and within the same second goes. So that is evolution for you. Then you have this beautiful picture here, the fantasy movie where Bahubali is all-powerful, infallible. He protects his country or his state or a territory by arrows. But can you do the same with our borders? My husband worked in defense for 26 years, and every year they had to update. There were those old tanks, like old books. They were kind of kept outside, but every year they had to update their defense mechanisms. And yes, the handgun was the landmark discovery. Once in a way, you have these disruptive inventions. So handgun was the disruptive invention then, which completely threw us out, and British came in. And similarly, I say today, digital technology is a disruptive technology, and it's eaten up every other technology. It's going to do that, similar to books also. So that is the evolution. And I'm sure all of you remember this record player. You know, we used to live in a place called Savai Madhopur in Rajasthan, and where we had this instrument, and it had a plate, and you know, it goes on, you know, and then suddenly there is a scratch. You have to take the stylus and put the record player in a different location, and then you get to hear that. Now, if I do that today, I mean, I will get stuck. I will not be able to go forward at all. And then you had these very wonderful tape recorders. This also the same thing. You know, you had these cassettes, and they have these brown substances which used to run, and suddenly you find that the song is not coming, and then you had to take and rewind and rewind. Of course, they were beautiful pieces, I agree. They had their own time and they were there. But now you have umpteen number of apps, 5,000 songs for you, 10,000 songs for you, and yet there is no, unless you just have to put it for charge, and it goes on and on, no stopping there. So that is evolution for you. And of course, we all know that you have bullock carts which look cute, and you cannot use them. They are not as fast as the cards. And when I think of bullock carts, I somehow get reminded of these old books. You know, they are there. You know, they're not non-existent. They're there, but they have lost their use. Yeah. So next is digital pathology. My God, the way it has come on, you can see the books here. But once you enter into digital pathology, we have so many seminars which are taken by experts. Madam herself, our most esteemed moderator, Madam has herself taken, you know, umpteen seminars. The way she moves into, you know, the slides, and there was a beautiful explanation she gave for pseudo-nuclear inclusions. I mean, I attend all these seminars, you know, and it was so interesting. No book has ever explained to us like that. And that's why the students, instead of, you know, sitting between 6 to 9 with their textbooks, they are sitting now in digital media, because these are the things that have come up, and it's going to completely eat up the textbooks. And I think that is what, so my point is one thing. Change is the only thing that is permanent. We have to embrace change, that is technology, or we will be left behind. Life moves only forwards. I'm sitting here in Chennai. Madam is sitting in Mumbai, and my opponent, my worthy opponent, is sitting in Chandigarh. And this debate is happening only because of technology. Thanks to Dr. Ushaji. I think it may be the first of its kind. So I think change is the only thing, and we have to embrace it. Has anybody seen a telephone directory recently? This is some of the, you know, new generation people talking about the telephone directory. You don't see it because it's no longer printed. It's transformed into phone contacts and Truecaller. You can entirely trace the history of the caller, and you never look into the directory because it's not there at all. So these are the things which have become obsolete over time. They may be there somewhere, but their contents are obsolete. So the book is obsolete. Point number 2, digital technology is easily accessible at the push of the button. As Madam herself said, at the push of the button, the students love it. When I sit for reporting with my students, how much ever I tell them, bring the book, they immediately put on their tabs and show me. And the advantage, I realized, this was a few years back, I realized its immediate reference is the biggest advantage. You can increase the screen, you can learn, immediately you can refer. And I think that's the biggest advantage. And you have, as I said, you have the Kindle where you can store 1,000 titles. As the new Amazon is bringing up a Kindle where you can throw 1,000, you can put in 1,500 titles, and they are downloadable in 60 seconds. And you have these, you know, PDF versions. And somebody say, oh, the look and the feel, you get the same look and feel. Now the modern ones are so good that when you turn the page, you can actually look and feel these, you know, digital books moving. I think that is the most important thing. And this is my department library, very neat, very clean. Hardly books are always in order. And this is why they only have their physical presence in a confined space. Learning is not creative, and the time of their spending in textbook has reduced drastically. And this time the NAC inspection came. We had a very tough NAC inspection. They were not interested in our books. They asked me, what are the online resources, paid and otherwise, that the students are using? I think that is the mindset now. They wanted to know what are the online resources, what are the things that the university pays as online resources. And sure enough, we had a whole list of them. And very interesting, no books are lost in the past 5 years. Earlier, we had this problem of losing books. For the past 5 years, the good news is the books are not lost because they are not used. They are not lost. They are still in the department. And these are some of the very popular online resources. You have the entire thing, USCAP, at the click of most of them are completely free. And not only that, you can actually self-assess yourself. You can actually take the test at the end, and immediately it throws up a nice certificate also. So the students love it. If they have to quickly refer, learn a topic, they have the entire videos there, they look at it, refer to it, then they take the assessment, and then the certificate is thrown up. So the third point is innovations. As Madam herself said, innovations are happening every single day. And medicine is a dynamic subject. So every single day we have newer and newer information. And by the time the textbooks come in information, it's completely outdated. The learners always want to have online resources to know what is new. Today's the symposium that we just had, what an amazing amount of information that was. And that is definitely not in textbooks. So innovations are happening every single minute, and only textbooks, only online resources can give you that. I had a case of mine in just about last week, and I didn't find it in any book. And then I looked up this. Most of our students go through a lot of Twitter. And let me just show you this 2-second video of a beautiful explanation by the expert. Dr. Vikram Deshpande has very beautifully, expressed the
features, most commonly adenocarcinoma, but sometimes a squamous cell carcinoma. These used to be called Mannix for pretty obvious reasons. Well, we now call them Minans because they are not all carcinomas, and the epithelial component is not always adenocarcinoma. Here's the first thing to remember. To call something a minin, at least a third of it needs to be endocrine and a third of it needs to be non-neuroendocrine. Now here's a minin that's read the textbook. Half of it is neuroendocrine and half of it is epithelial. Perfect, right? Unfortunately, there are more rules. One, you've got to see two distinct components. On the H&E guys, two components, one neuroendocrine and one epithelial. More rules, the neuroendocrine component must look neuroendocrine on an H&E, easier said than done. And two, the neuroendocrine component must stain for neuroendocrine markers, preferably 2 of these 3 markers. So let's see if this tumor obeys those 2 rules. 2 distinct component, one definitely looks like adenocarcinoma and the other does not. Check. The non-adenocarcinoma component looks relatively monotonous and has this nested pattern. Definitely looks endocrine. Check. And what looks like the neuroendocrine component is diffusely and strongly positive for chromogranin. What looks like adenocarcinoma is generally negative. So check, check, check. So at least a third of this is neuroendocrine, a third of this, at least a third of this is adenocarcinoma. You have 2 very distinct components on the H&E. The neuroendocrine component looks neuroendocrine on H&E and stains for neuroendocrine markers. And so this is indeed a minin, but there are more rules to follow, but you'll have to wait for a couple of days to hear all about them. Until then, bye-bye.
So that was Dr. Vikram Deshpande, and such clear explanation. And interestingly, I did not find this in most standard books. And even so, it would never be so well illustrated. So our students are more and more with Twitter. Twitter has become an educative platform. It tells you clearly what is the current entities. And that's how Twitter has become so popular among students. And then we have the C Impact Now, which is a consortium to inform molecular and practical approaches to CNS tumors. The last CNS WHO book was in 2016. And after that, so much of revisions have happened, so much of new things have come up. So now we have the C Impact, which tells you, and this has an impact on patient care. And every year they have made 7 revisions after 2016, and that's likely to come. The book will only carry it in 2021. They said in 2020, but it's still not come out. Probably it'll come out in 2021. So it's just updation and the latest knowledge which is given by all other sources of information. And you just had heard about the liquid biopsy, OncoKB. This is the information is changed every week. And it's absolutely hot. In fact, just last week, they said tumor mutation burden is now accepted by FDA as an agnostic marker. I think this is not, for it to come into textbook will take years. But then in the meantime, what Dr. Ullas said, what Dr. Anurag said, it really is important for patient care. The 80-year-old, the 68-year-old, the 55-year-old, definitely it makes a difference. And that you cannot, and it's so embarrassing if you are going to teach something old from textbooks. You need to tell your students that this is what is new and you need to know what is new. And then, of course, in RCC entities, there are 11 new entities. We are already reporting it. But the old book, 2016, does not have these new entities. And each of these entities have a prognostic importance. So if you're going to be reading the textbook, you will be outdated. If you're going to be learning from the net, you're definitely, you're updated. The point number 4 is textbooks are now coming with Kindle version because they are easy to read. They have clear font. You can enlarge the font. And you can even hotspot. That means if you don't understand, you can click the particular word and immediately it tells you what it is. And you can also bring dictionary to understand any difficult word. None of this is possible in the printed book. And one study shows that 59% are purchases made by people over 55 years. Why? Because you can increase the size of the font. And here I would like to tell you, I presented my father-in-law on the 75th birthday with a Kindle. He was so angry with me. He said, what is this? You're wasting money. But then when he went abroad to meet his granddaughter, she taught him. And after that, he's so happy with it because he can put as many books and it's easy to carry the whole Kindle with you. And I wish to thank my esteemed Dr. Harsh Mohan, sir, because besides the book, for everything, he has a Kindle version. Thank you so much, sir. All our paramedical students, they're so thankful because they can put your book into their Kindle and read it at any time. They don't have to carry the heavy printed books. And I think this year when I asked, almost many of them have your Kindle version rather than the actual book. Lighter on the shoulder and happy learning experience. I had told you earlier that it's a less load to carry. Editions can be updated in minutes and they make it, animations make it more interesting. There are quizzes, there are videos. And I happen to interact with a few students here and there is a new name for homework. When you say homework, they don't like it. There's something called self-study. It makes it truly alive and dynamic.
Sandhya, could we wrap it up quickly?
Yes. So that is what I think being adaptable and updatable is the most important thing. There are more excellent online resources. Books are expensive. And there is this Khan Academy, which has completely free and no books at all for different kinds of variegated learners. You have auditory learners and technology accommodates them all. You have a new CBME curriculum. It's all about this. They don't want bookworms. They want people to interact. And you have these disappearing libraries, Lage Raho Munna Bhai, where you see only him sitting there with no, this is the condition of all our libraries. And you have, love used to blossom in libraries, but unfortunately not anymore because students don't visit them anymore. And now you have bookless libraries which are coming on. The first bookless library came in San Antonio in Texas, where you have only sheets and you don't have these old books lined up there. For a green world, we all know that 15 billion trees are cut down each year to actually make books. And this is something, where do you do with all the old editions? There are books everywhere, thesis. Now, many of them have turned to, online thesis, the hard copy thesis. So there is a realization, and many countries are now sensitive to it. Norway is one of the first countries to ban cutting of trees. And post-corona world, new normal, pandemic has taken its toll on publishing industry. Many of them keep coming and giving me free books, but they're because they cannot sell it. And this is my own story. Madam was mentioning about my book. Till last year, we published the edition. But this year, my publisher says, let's make it an e-book. Madam, let's put it in Kindle. And that is the truth. Corona has finally nailed it. And of course, we all know that networking through social media was the biggest example of how powerful the digital exists. And I would just like to
Sandhya, we have to give time for Dr.
Yes. Okay.
Harsh to counter your...
Yeah. So they used to be, that's about the kids today. And so if you are not updated, we are outdated. And I just want to say that, look at the topics of discussion today. It's only possible with Google. I just looked up the last meaning of obsolete. It says not much use, no, not longer current because something better has been invented. I humbly ask each one of you, how many hours have you spent reading printed books in the last week? And I would say that slowly books will go into a vintage as a old and rare books. And as I said, Galileo said earth is round, was stoned and later repented. And I say printed books are going to become obsolete. And I know technology has taken over everything, and definitely technology will take over books also. And thank you so much. My heartfelt thank you to each one of you for giving me the opportunity to put up my points. I'm very passionate about technology. We all adopted to technology. And thank you so much, madam, for giving me the chance to put up my viewpoints. Thank you once again. Thank you to the organizers.
Thank you very much, Sandhya. You did this in a very lively sort of fashion. So let us hear now from the prolific writer of textbooks, and that is Dr. Harsh Mohan. Harsh, you have been introduced, so would you like to share your screen and share your thoughts?
Yes. Are we there?
Yes, it's in slide sort of view.
Are we there now?
Yes, it is in slide sort of view, so you have to open it in full screen.
It's up, so you may start now.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Borges and the organizer for affording me an opportunity to express my views. And it's been wonderful having this meeting by this modern technology. My subject is on printed textbooks are going to stay. So they are not getting obsolete. And I think being an author, I must disclaim that it is no promotion of any type. So therefore, this presentation is made purely on the basis of my experience and from other resources which have been acknowledged. And there is no financial interest involved and no promotion involved in this. I have divided my presentation into four small subheads. First, giving you an overview, then a logical support to my stand, and then bit of sentimentality slides, and then finally my take on it. But before that, when I take the overview, I must first of all come to the subject as to what are textbooks, because Madam has spoken about all higher technology and higher learning. Including some videos where, you know, a neuroendocrine neoplasm is the diagnosis, then a neuroendocrine carcinoma and the current technology and all that. This is all higher learning, and there's no doubt that this higher learning, but that is not textbook. So what's a textbook? That is where we have to start from. First of all, we are living in such a time which is unusual and unprecedented when we are having this debate. We have had a recent experience of a pandemic where the teaching and learning has undergone a great transition. The students had to go through a different mode of learning. The teachers had to go through a different modality of teaching. So therefore, the current experience as well as the current literature is heavy tilted for the debate, I must say so. And this is because the challenges and concerns faced by both the learners as well as students during this time. But good thing is that at most places, people have gone through that very well, right from, early school classes to higher educational institutes or research institutes, where online modality of learning and teaching has been going on. So this has, in a way, enlightened the students, educators, or you may call them facilitators, and have also held examinations by this online modality, accepted, no doubt about it. It is also accepted that in the Western world, the switch from the printed books to e-learning resources has been going on for a good 15 to 20 years. But does that mean this is an end of an era of printed textbooks? Not at all. I do not agree. You see, there's an article recently published in JAMA on medical student education in the time of COVID-19, where a viewpoint has been expressed by a professor from the UPenn. And they have supported all this, that post-pandemic, there is going to be change again. Some part of this going to remain in education system, but a lot of it is going to change. So what Madam has talked of is in general about books. The topic here is textbooks. So what is a textbook? It's not all books. We are not talking of WHO fascicles. We are not talking of the recent advances in histopathology. We are not talking of the newer classifications. No, we are talking of a textbook. So what is a textbook? Textbook is a basic book which is used for a particular course of study. And this has to be in conformity with the laid down objective in their curriculum for the students. And therefore, learner as well as the teacher has to know what is the curriculum for them and how they have to learn it. So it has to be at that level. So therefore, the material given to the student in a textbook is in conformity with their abilities of the learners. It's very important, and not open up whole Pandora of material to the students, the learners. And this material in the textbook is in such a logically organized manner and in a balanced, connected manner that the learners are able to understand, assimilate, and then reproduce in a organized manner, in a structured manner. So is the case with the teaching, that they also will follow a particular systematic approach rather than having so many offshoots or so many side links which happen in online learning. So that's what a textbook, a printed text is about. So the material is such comprehensive and objective, but yet it is so connected and made simple and easily understandable. That's what a textbook is about. Now, a good textbook is one where the students are not distracted to other offshoots or other side links, because the students' eyes are going to wander and they lose the focus. So therefore, we need to create a focus for the learner. You must have seen as a experienced teacher that a page which is text heavy is a bit distractant to the students. It distracts them. They look at some spaces on the page, and those spaces may be in the form of figures, they may be form of schematic drawings, or maybe form of comparative tables. These are what we call them as rest areas on a page. When you look at what you've done in the last 2 hours of learning as a student, if you go back to that time, you will realize that at the end of 2 hours, you want to know your output, that I have read 40 pages. Maybe out of that 40 pages, 20 pages were rest areas. They were figures, schematics, and tables on a textbook. So therefore, the student looks at that as a text along with the supported material on a page, and that too, in such a balanced way and in a connected way, we should highlight the main features on that page. That highlighting may be in a variety of ways. That may be by variety of variation in the font size or font type or some kind of color scheme, so that they pick out the important points and therefore stay focused. So therefore, it's very important that we present the material in a textbook to the student in a connected manner as if they are reading a story. It can't be that, first of all, look at the prognosis. It can't be. It has to be starting with, their basic knowledge of anatomy and physiology, review of that, and then connected to the lesions of that particular organ. So it has to be connected in the form of a story for the student. So textbook is more or less like a dialogue between author and a reader. Through a textbook, you get connected to a very large number of students. As a teacher, you teach a class of 50 or 100 or 150 or 200. My friend Bush teaches very large number of students there, I know. But then through the books, you've reached such a large number of students by a textbook. And that is kind of dialogue between user and the author. So it's a kind of interface which is built by this textbook. And it also serves as a guide for both, not only student, but also for the teacher to present the material in a connected, systematic, organized manner. So therefore, in a sense, a textbook is a material which is harmonized with the interests, needs, psychological demands, and mental level of the user. The other confusing word which has been used in between was also there in the initial wording of our topic as well, as to publishing, printing. What are these? So publishing is a content creation and managing production. Well, printing is printing of the material on pages with binding and packing and all that stuff. And end product comes to the publisher again. So publisher is not a printer generally. So most textbooks are published in a printed format, while some books are also available as e-books, like Dr. Sandhya just now mentioned. We too have a Kindle version of my book as well. So therefore, there are many books which are available in dual mode as well. The hard copies, or what we call them as print version, and also as e-version of the books. But let's say so that both printed books as well as e-books are publications. Both are publications. So we're talking of publications. We are not talking of the printed books alone. Now, how do I get logical support to my stand? Now, as we know that market has so many printed books with simultaneous technology-driven content in them, because the world is moving fast and things in print go out of date quickly. So therefore, what publishers and authors have done is to add on some electronic content connected to the book, textbook. So that's a digital content which is connected as an add-on or an additional material given alongside, and that is periodically updated by the authors through publishers. And a lot of these books have both these e-version as well as the printed version. In addition to that, they have also provided, many publishers have provided access to the website or online consult, or which is old technology, that's a DVD, which is not being done anymore. But in the initial editions, we too did that. We provided DVD support with some material in it. And many books have also come as app edition as well, besides a hard copy. And some books have got an interactive contact. That means the content of the book, where you have a query or a question, you can post it by an interactive content. Look at this. Now, this is Harrison's Principles of Internal Medicine, which is a standard textbook of medicine. You have a hard copy, which is sold by the publisher as a textbook. It also provides a link to go to review questions or go to cases. And it also provides a textbook. Sorry, can I lift this from here? Yeah, that's better. So you can also see the link on the side here that there are textbook updates available on 4th January or 23rd December. Where links are provided alongside it. So these technologies have come into printed textbook technology along with the ebook versions or electronic updating. Look at our most famous textbook, Robbins and Cotton's Pathologic Basis of Disease. They provide a Kindle edition and a hardcover. Look at the price. Both of them are almost the same. It doesn't save any great money if you have a Kindle version. It is also almost the same, close to 6,000. This is 6,500. And this also provides an app edition as well, a free app edition along with this hard copy of the book, which is what is provided. Another very famous pathology book, which is more often used by our students in US or in even Caribbean, a rapid review of pathology by Gulzar. Now, this book is very popular amongst those who are going for residency in US, and they have a Kindle edition, a paperback, and an app edition. Look at the price of a Kindle edition, 1,045, while a printed one is 1,000 rupees. And they also have an app edition available along with it. And look at what Gulzar says. Gulzar says, along with this hard copy of the book, student consult ebook version is included with the purchase of the printed version. So the student consult is also given alongside. The enhanced ebook experience allows you to search all of the text, figures, reference, animations designed to produce a more rounded clinical experience. You will also find approximately 500 MLE style questions and new integrated links and so on. So these links and these additional add-on features are given along with the hard copy of the book itself. So that is the technology which is available now for the books. Now, few questions on digital learning for our undergraduates alone versus printed textbook. Now, first of all, the experienced teachers look for a balanced content being given to the students, and that is what comes in the textbook. It's important for the teachers to be observing the students as to how much is to be provided to them. Not everybody is a genius. Majority of the students, I would say 80%, fall in that middle class. You know, that's where they are. They are the mediocre ones. And therefore, you don't want to give too much or too little of the material. So balanced content is what we want. And we want to give it in a structured way, in a systematic way. That's what comes in a textbook. Secondly, our undergraduates get admission to medical schools just after passing out of high schools. It's unlike US, unlike other Western countries, where they first do one single graduation in science, and then they go on to do MD, which is equivalent to our MBBS, as a graduate course in medicine. So they are mature enough, and they can decide for themselves not to wander away from the focus. So our undergraduates are not mature enough to sieve through the internet for authentic and reliable e-source material for routine studies. For higher studies, it is all right, but for routine learning, that is not the way to do it. They must be provided with the learning from textbooks. Now, it's also important for the undergraduates, especially the early learners, where it is to be decided what is to be read, what is to be done, but not how it is to be read. It is important to decide, and therefore the entire group of students in a class need to be conveyed what is to be learned and not how alone. If they're left alone, then the students are going to go astray, and there are bound to be gaps. Something else interests them on the internet, on a page which they have opened on their laptop or on their tablet. And then there'll be gaps in their learning in a systematic and an organized way. They have wasted their time, whiled away their time. Maybe they learned something through that, but they lost the focus on what they were supposed to learn in a connected manner. And lastly, and most importantly, there are certain practical skills which cannot be learned virtually at all. You know, viewing is not a substitute for seeing. If you're viewing something on the screen, it's not substitute for what you are seeing on and feeling on the pages of it. So therefore, that's again a very important feature. The major pitfalls of digital learning are that there are too many distractions, and those who read paper books, they have been seen to comprehend more, remember more, learn better. There have been many studies on that. So print reading on a textbook is a kind of meditation when they assimilate more and they learn better, especially in formative years of their learning, like undergraduates. And then when you talk of the technology-driven learning alone, you have to go for an expensive hardware. You have to buy software or buy e-versions, which are not cheap. They are as expensive as hard copies are. And you require a good infrastructure like Wi-Fi, and that may not be uniform in a country like India. Here in our symposium itself, we are finding some of them are not having internet connection in an uninterrupted manner. And if you allow the students to use only the laptops or the tablet, the battery life of a tablet is just about 7 hours. And therefore, there will have to be sockets everywhere where they have to go on wall sockets. And then, of course, the printed books do not crash or freeze or get hacked, unlike what happens to the electronic devices. And then equally important are the health issues, which is due to chronic use of the screen for reading all the time. They are already using mobile phones, they're using laptops and tablets for higher learning, but they've started doing it for routine learning of a textbook basic material. They will suffer from various problems like sleep deprivation or computer vision syndrome or carpal tunnel syndrome. And last part is the sentimentality of the textbook. where you can mark on it and you remember it for all your time. What does future hold in e-learning era alone? You reflect upon your best memories as teachers or colleagues as students. How will you feel your passion for teaching or learning or sharing during an era when you may not sit together and you just watch everything on a computer screen, an era devoid of learner-teacher interaction? There's a very good article which has come in Cancer Cytopathology recently, Considerations for Remote Learning in Pathology During COVID-19 Social Distancing. This is a recent article by a group of workers who have talked of not only the routine textbook learning, but also reporting scenario, how post-COVID reporting scenario may undergo some change, but part of it remains the same, where learner or the human interaction is an important component rather than reporting by remote control. A paper textbook is quite like a person. It has a face. Look at this. It has a spine. It has a back. So it's like a human being. There's an emotional connect with what you call as my book, because you read it during your years. This is the textbook which I read as an undergraduate student. The last edition of Boyd's, that is what, textbook of pathology, 1970. This is what we read. And I remember the pages and the places where we marked, and I have a connected with. I look at it even now when I revise my book or read the pathology of something. Something interesting comes out of somewhere. Even the preface, you find what he writes is, specialization makes human minds strangers to each other. Why I am able to read this line here on this crowded page is because I have marked it there. And that's what is the beauty of a textbook in printed format. Look at the other textbook where there is a sense of belonging, which I call as my book, because I read this book when I was doing my MD. That's what it was. This was 1977 edition of Anderson's Pathology, which now we call as Anderson's Pathology, which is no more available as a revised edition. And this book used to be the master book for us as postgraduates. And we read this. I have marked it all over, and I have it with me for all time. Ever since I did my MD more than 40 years back. The book is my book. Therefore, I have a connect with it. So nothing like holding a paper book in hand, turning its pages and feel the smell of fresh or old paper. I tell you, Dr. Sandhya, my book smells better than your tablet. And on lighter side, look at what Gulzar says for paper books. He says, "Magar wo jo kitabon mein mila karte the सूखे फूल और महके हुए रुके, किताबें मांगने गिरने उठाने के बहाने रिश्ते बनते थे, उनका क्या होगा?" Meaning thereby, those books which we used to keep flowers in them, which were dried, and there would be fragrance of those flowers, of dried flowers in those books, and the fragrance going into the slips of pages which we would put into them, and they will fall down. And then by pretext, we will borrow books from each other, from either gender, and falling off the book or picking up the book will build up relationship. That's how it used to be. And what will happen to that? That's what Gulzar Sahab says about this. So my take on this is, encourage expansion of knowledge by blended learning, which means that you have a basic printed textbook for cover-to-cover learning and blend it with higher learning from digital resources. Add on digital learning sources for updates, recent advances, or specialty books, or reference books, or atlases. You find reference books and atlases have disappeared from market because there's no market for them. They are all online. But textbooks, yes, they have to be printed textbook for the learners. There are also a lot of digital resources for, objective structured clinical and practical exercises or self-test. Fine, for all that is, they are not textbook. Those are acceptable formats for digital learning, but not for textbooks. For textbooks, for systematic learning, it's important that the learner goes for the paper textbooks. Now take a simple self-test, my dear audience, and you can decide for yourself which side you are. Do you read a newspaper? a e-newspaper or wait for a hopper to deliver printed newspaper.
Harsh, can you wrap it up quickly, please?
That's my last slide.
Oh, very good. Great.
Last slide. Take a simple self-test, which side you are. And while you are in India, it doesn't apply to my friend Bush or, Ashraf. When you are in India, you wait for a hawker to deliver your newspaper and don't read e-paper. When I go to US, I read e-newspaper. Has availability of TV killed the radio? We all hear FM radio also. And if you have a choice, Madam Chairperson, what do you prefer for pathology consult? Will you prefer a few selected images sent across to you by internet? Or you prefer well-stained glass slide or a block sent across to you? Remember, audience, if you vote for digital-only learning, topic for next debate will be, are medical teachers becoming obsolete? So ultimately, content and presentation matter and not the format, a printed book or the online. For beginners, there should be one basic paper textbook for systematic learning, which is a must, and that book they will call as my book. And then there is, of course, unending resources of learning for online for expanded knowledge and also for self-assessment. Although the grasp and maturity will vary among students in a class, and therefore discretion is advised. So blended learning being encouraged. E-learning solution be used to augment rather than replace printed textbook learning. So printed textbooks are here to stay. Thank you.
So you, ladies and gentlemen, you have heard two sides of this debate, which was understood differently in some ways by Dr. Sundaram and Dr. Harsh Mohan. Okay, I think Harsh concentrated on printed textbooks, and I think Sandhya talked about ebooks. But nonetheless, it's about ebooks, and basically textbooks could be e or they could be printed. But are they getting obsolete because there is so much information that is present in cyberspace? Now, what Harsh said, made in his presentation, was that a textbook should have material that is balanced, sifted, reliably sifted, and contain a lot of fundamentals which have endured over the ages. So that kind of information and knowledge, which does not change every minute or every week. On the other hand, I think what Sandhya was saying is, that you can get information from in a digitized kind of fashion, and that when somebody wants to find out what is the latest and perhaps also the best, when you have a problem, when you have to solve that problem, you would probably go and address this problem by going to some form of digital or on the net, or go to some seminars or something that in which you would be able to get this material online. So what Sandhya is saying is that students, and she didn't make it very clear whether these were undergraduates or postgraduates, need to find knowledge for themselves and go to the web with fewer certainties of the basics. So that's the flavor of what the two debaters talked about. There's been a stream of different views that have been coming in on the chat box. There are those who are, on Dr. Sandhya's side, and there are those who have, talked about. But most of them are the same people, and they seem to be debating amongst themselves. And if all of you go to the chat box, you will be able to see it. I can't read all of them. It is very interesting what is happening on the chat box. I would just ask if Sandhya, you would like to rebut Dr. Harsh Mohan in just a minute, because we really don't have much time. We are going to sort of run over. We have already run over in the first symposium, so I don't really want to run over. We have just 1 minute. Would you like to say something to rebut what Harsh has said?
So thank you, madam. I have only one point to make, and that is we are talking about print books. We are talking about print books, which means we print it out, make it a hardbound. And once the edition is done and over, what do you do with those editions, madam? The students are now very comfortable with the digital books. They are very, I mean, the question is not about e-books. It's about print books and the e-version of it. So they now prefer the e-version because they can put in as many e-versions into that one book. And it's not only about examinations, it's also about learning. The new CBME is all about learning, how you learn, what is a formative assessment. And so I would say that slowly the wiring is getting different. Even I love books. I learned everything from books, but now the students are having a different wiring. Their mind is wired differently. They're immediately able to identify with the chapters from the e-versions and from the net. Of course, it needs to be syllabized, and that's why the word becoming obsolete. I didn't say non-existent. They will exist. I'm not saying non-existent. They're just becoming obsolete. Losing the word is becoming obsolete, which just means that there is something current which has come and which has slowly taken over.
Right. Thank you, Sandhya.
Thank you so much, madam, for the opportunity.
Not at all. Thank you. Yes, Harsh, you'd like to say something in a minute? You have to unmute yourself, Harsh. Unmute. Yes, yes.
Yeah. So the material comes to the textbook after it has been thoroughly validated. Whatever comes to literature, you see, the students will be able to look at what is in Wikipedia or whatever comes as the first source in Google. May not be authentic, may not be reliable. They are immature, lot of people, and they will keep surfing the material which is not authentic. You know, you think everything coming on Wikipedia is reliable. So electronic versions or online learning alone is not the way. I think the learners, especially the beginners, need to have a structured way of learning, which is from the textbook. What do we call that as a textbook case? What is a textbook case? When it has been authenticated by literature over a period of time, not something which has come into publication last month or 2 months back or 6 months back. So that comes into textbook. That's what becomes a textbook case, not everything. We're talking of textbooks. We're not talking of all learning. We're not talking of research. We're not talking of neuroclassification. We're talking of basic textbook. Textbook is something which I strongly believe that we should have modern technology fine, but print version for beginners is important where there, you see, otherwise there will be no systematic way of learning.
Sure. Thank you, Harsh. Thank you very much. By just going through the chat box very quickly, I can see that a number of the people in the meantime can, while we're having a little chat, can Aditya please publish, have the post-debate poll up?
Yes, ma'am.
And then we'll compare the pre and post.
Okay, the poll is up. You'll have 2 minutes.
But what I noticed was that there are many professors of medical colleges where they have both undergraduate and postgraduate students who are very supportive of Professor Harsh Mohan's view. On the other hand, there are comments that have come from those who are in practice, those who are in postgraduate institutes and who don't teach undergraduate students, and some people who believe that a printed book and an e-book are more or less the same thing. A textbook are very much in Dr. Sandhya's camp. So.
1 more minute to go. Kindly respond to the poll soon.
One doesn't think that a minute is a long time, isn't that right? I always know that when we are standing in 1 minute silence, in a condolence, you are looking at your watch to see, and you realize that it's only 10 seconds that have passed.
Okay, it's closing now. Closing the poll.
Okay, good. So now, would you like to tell us, Aditya?
I'll just share in a minute, ma'am. You continue the discussion, ma'am, where
All right.
before I raise it.
I know that we're going to have a talk by Bush, and maybe Bush, you'd like to, if it's not going to steal the thunder from your own talk, would you just like to give us your views on textbooks? Bush, you're muted. Bush, you're muted. Yeah, that's right. Okay, now you're.
Me?
Yes, of course, Bush.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Yeah, because
Usha,
people
can
have
you hear
already
me or
voted,
not?
so they're not going to change their minds. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, very well, Bush. We can hear you.
Looks like he can't hear us. Yeah.
You can't hear us, Bush?
My mind is filled up with kabutars from Sundaram right now. So I don't know what I'm going to speak in the short time that I will be starting my talk.
Yeah.
I think there was my personal take.
Yeah.
No offense to either speaker. I think the take on the topic was different from the two speakers.
That's
Textbooks
what I also
could
thought. They
be
understood it
printed,
differently.
hard copies,
The
or
topic
it
was
could
a
be
little changed, sir.
e-copies.
So, yeah.
And reference materials versus textbooks. So I think both did a great job. I would say, looking at the next generation that we have to deal with in large numbers, they are more adept at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and there's multiple internet versions of information. And only thing, as Harsh mentioned, there has to be a very, very strict guidance on what they can access and what they can't access. Otherwise, it's easy for them to stray and get lost in the bigger internet world and not focus on the focus in the immediate thing. That was one of the points I was planning to make in my presentation.
All right.
Thank you, Anita.
That was a very beautiful summary. The results are ready, and I will ready to share them. Dr. Harshmohan sir and Sandhya ma'am, are you nervous? Okay, here are the results.
We enjoy doing it. It's fun, sir.
Here are the
It's like
results.
a big
Okay,
fight,
the pre-debate result is undecided with 12%, for only 38%, and against were 50%. Okay, and after the debate, the undecided population had made that decision, so it was 0, and the post-debate against were 71% and for were 29%.
So now we have to congratulate Harsh, because he managed to convert. Because if you look at the percentage, the undecideds obviously went for Harsh, and some of those who were for, that is Sandhya's votaries, also came back to Harsh's. So anyway. I think that this is not something that we can solve a matter of, a 40-minute or even, a whole day debate. I think it's something that we have to take on board as to what it is that we need to do as teachers. And I think Harsh's last slide was very telling, in that he said that if you are going to debate whether textbooks, which means structured learning, is going to go out of the window because you have access to the latest and the best on the net, then it is about structured learning. Textbooks, I believe, are about structured learning. And if you throw out structured learning, then the next debate is, teachers have, or what role will teachers then have in the process of learning. So I thank both of you really very much for the amount of time and trouble that you have taken to put your thoughts in order and to put them to the audience. I thank the organizers, Dr. Kini and the Karnataka chapter, for conducting this so well. In particular, Aditya, who did this poll business so well and then produced the pie charts. Thank you, all of you, and I hope that we will continue this debate at another time and another place.